In this video, we're talking about the bird family from Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. We'll cover who they are and their motives and actions. Hi, my name is Jeremy, and welcome to Elwyn Studios. We're introduced to the family in Chapter 9. Senator John Bird and his wife Mary live near the Ohio River with their young children. Eliza, one of the novel's main characters, and her son show up at the birdhouse, begging to be protected from the pursuing slave hunters. There are two things you need to know about the Birds to understand their story. Senator John had just voted in favor of the Fugitive Slave Law, which punished anyone who helped a slave. This is something his wife is against. Also, the family's 4-year-old son, Henry, died just a month before Eliza and her own 4-year-old son, Harry, show up. This is something that really plays into the emotions and weight of the situation, but we'll get more into that later. For now, let's talk about the fact that a senator who had just been advocating for the Fugitive Slave Law is now out risking his career to break the law he helped to pass. According to his wife, John Bird is not a passive or bad guy. The first few pages of Chapter 9 are actually about her telling him how out of character his actions have been lately. She even says she'd like to see him try to turn away some cold, hungry traveler or fugitive and send them to jail for running away. Here's how I see it. John Bird is only a man. He made mistakes, he was tired, grieving, not thinking straight. But clarity comes when he sees Eliza and Harry, and now he's doing his best to fix things. It's a perfect story of redemption and humanity. Even the name of the chapter will back me up on this one. What I like most about the Bird family, especially in regards to husband and wife, is when John recognizes how wrong he was, Mary doesn't once say, "I told you so." Instead, she waits quietly for his decision and tells him how proud she is of what he is doing. This pushes him to do even more to help Eliza and runaway slaves. This is marriage at its finest. But there's one thing I need to point out. John says Eliza and Harry need to move that night, otherwise the slave catchers would catch up to them. This is true. He also says there's a guy that lives in the woods several miles away who will hide and protect any fugitive. This is also true. But then John says he's the only one who can drive the carriage there since Cudjoe, the family's coachman, doesn't know the road as well as he does. This probably isn't true. At midnight, when the senator takes Eliza and Harry to their next stop, he's not the one driving. He's sitting in the back seat with the runaway slaves, while Cudjoe drives. Now, Cudjoe does take Senator John to the next station after dropping off Eliza and Harry to avoid any suspicion. But the novel never says John took over when they got to the stream crossings, or that he even gave any directions. What does this tell us about Senator John? He's obviously ashamed of the suffering he allowed to be inflicted on a poor mother and her son. And he wants to do something, anything, to redeem himself. However small his contribution to anti-slavery, it means the world to Eliza, to Harry, to his wife, but most of all, to himself. Now let's talk about Mary Bird. When asked why she would run away, Eliza tells the Bird family that she had lost 2 children at infancy, and that they were going to take Harry, her last son, away from her too. Remember how Mary and John had lost their own son just a month earlier? Yeah, Eliza's story strikes them to the core, and Mary throws herself into doing everything she can to provide food and clothing for the runaways. The best moment in the story is when Mary walks into one of the bedrooms, takes out a key, and opens a drawer full of clothes, toys, shoes, and a hat. They're her own son's things. Mary's other children enter the room and ask her why she would give their brother's things away. She tells them that someone hurting more than them would need them. At the start of the chapter, both John and Mary have a very general view of slavery. Senator John says abolitionists are a nuisance, that slaves ought to be returned to their masters for the sake of unity. But when John says slave or fugitive, what he's picturing is a description on a newspaper with a drawing or a cartoon, not a real human. Now, after meeting a real-life slave, John realizes that a slave could be anyone. A child, a mother, an old man. Mary had a slightly different view of slavery. She hated the idea of anyone being chased like a beast, but she didn't understand that it wasn't just bad masters that made the system so horrid. It was slavery itself that allowed men to dehumanize other men. She said that if she was ever to own slaves, she would treat them well so they wouldn't have to run away. But when questioning Eliza, the family asks why she would want to run from a good and kind master like the one that she had. Eliza's response changed everything for the Bird family. It wasn't Master Shelby's fault. He was in debt and was forced to sell some of his slaves. The laws allowed for the tearing apart of families. It didn't matter if you were a good master or a bad master. In the end, the man still owns you and you still don't have your freedom. After this chapter, I'm sure if Mary and John found themselves inheriting slaves, they would set them free, instantly and without question. The story of the Bird family has a perfect start, middle, and end. The characters, set in their ways, are introduced to something they didn't expect. They have a dilemma and a danger that follows them, but they come out on the other side victorious and changed for the better. You can find the whole story of the Bird family in Chapter 9 of Uncle Tom's Cabin. For more brain-stimulating stuff, you can click here for another video, and over here to stay up to date on what we got going on.